Welcome to Work It, Live It, Own It, a show that explores how to upgrade your lifestyle through life lessons, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Here's your hostess, SaCola Lehr. Are you good at what you do? Are you super talented? No one can light a candle to how you think, you move, you act, you speak on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to your job, your business, or your career. But yet, you seem to feel undervalued, unappreciated. You're just merely tolerated. In this particular episode, after sitting down talking with a friend, Jaunai Walker, she touched on some points in our conversation that I just want to recap on. And we're going to focus on today about going where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Let's dive in. So, like I said, this is a recap. So this is just a one-on-one conversation with you guys. I've had that happen to me several times. From the time that I was a kid, I was told, hey, you need to look a certain way if you're going to go into this particular profession because you need to be accepted. And so that's what I did. I looked a certain way, dressed a certain way. And don't get me wrong, I am all for clean, professional grooming. I'm one, I'll freak out if my hair is out of place, even though it's been natural and curly for a very long time. But I've also worked really hard to get to where I am. And on my job, I've taken my job very seriously in education and in real estate. But what I will say to you is this. There have been moments where I have sat in a room, I've sat in on calls, and things were said that made me feel inferior, that undermined my skills and expertise. And you may start questioning yourself, well, do I really know what I'm talking about? Or you start to feel less confident about your skills and expertise. So let me tell you right now, it's not you. It's your environment. And statistically, we as women are more prone to stay in a job, stay in a profession that makes us more miserable, that can cause depression, and stay there just to save face. Why? Because of the income, the prestige, right? The benefits. I've got kids. I have a family. I need to take care of my family. I need to help support my family. Those are all legitimate concerns when it comes to your life, your family. Yes, bills, they're not going to go away unless you decide to completely live off grid. It's true. But what I will say to you, what Jaunai had mentioned in our conversation is, if you feel and you see that there is no longer a seat, or never was or never will be a seat at the table for you, build your own table. Go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. So that is a growing problem. That is a growing issue for so many today. Even myself, I felt it. I have had people that I've gone up to in conferences. I've listened to them, heard them speak, go up to shake their hand, and they think, I'm just going to be honest, the help, the assistant, because what I do, not too many people look like me in what I do. And this is not talking about real estate, because there are a lot of people of color in real estate. But at the time when I was an educator, I decided to go back, get my master's degree of library science. let's just be honest, there are not that many people with a Master of Library Science degree that looks like me. So when I would show up at these conferences and I'm so excited to talk to the person who just presented, they could not look me in my eyes, could barely shake my hand. And I said, well, it was nice meeting you. And they went to one of my teammates. And I say teammates. I don't like to call the people I work with assistants, but this was a teammate of mine. And as soon as the woman started talking, I'm like, oh, I think this is going to be a really great program. Da 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 da. And my teammate said, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. I'm not the woman you should be talking to. It's her. And she points at me. And the woman turns around and looks at me. And I just wave. And I say, have a wonderful evening. And I walk out the door because I don't want to work with anyone who does not want to work or collaborate with me. And guess what? That is okay. But now my situation was a little bit different from what you may have experienced. Even on the real estate side, I have experienced it. I've sat in on teams where they give the hoorah, hoorays of who sold the most homes this month, gross commission of the month or the quarter. And there's no celebration or check in with the people who didn't have a successful quarter or a month as some other people. And I get it. When you've accomplished great things, you should be celebrated. But there's also a need for nurturing, which is something that Jaunai and I talked about. Nurturing. So how do you start building your own table if the table you're currently at or trying to get to won't serve you? One is stop allowing yourself to be tolerated. Go out there and find people who will support you, who will see the value in you. Another thing is whether it's your 9 to 5, you show up on an interview, remember one thing, you're not just sitting there to allow them to interview you. You're also there to interview them. You find out if they are a good fit for you. Again, this is where I talk about this, and I'm going to have to talk about an episode more in depth about your core values and how to create your core values, because it's so important, guys. Your core values is not just for your business, it's also for your life. Real talk. It's for your life. So find the people who celebrate you. And you may say, well, who celebrates me? It could be your family, it could be your friends. And sometimes, let's just be honest, let's be realistic, depending on where you grew up, who you've surrounded yourself with. If you're trying to make moves, some people don't understand those moves. Some people may not understand, it may not resonate with them, and some people may put you down for it. Across the world, you may hear the crab in the bucket, the lobster in the bucket, where you see someone trying to climb out to go somewhere and someone's going to snatch you right back down. Listen, don't take that personally. A lot of times it's fear. They're operating in fear because they feel like you're going to leave them behind. And in reality, there are times where in business and in life, you still love that person, but you're not in their everyday life like that. So there are communities, there are groups out there that you find or individuals that can support your actions, that can encourage you to do even more than what you're doing right now as far as achieving what you want in life. And I don't mean someone who's going to be your yes team, okay? Because when I work with a life coach and I have a therapist, because I got to, part of my self-care is making sure that I have a therapist, because I don't want to burden down my family and friends with a lot of things that are going on in this mind. Okay. I'm just going to be realistic. Taking care of yourself is also making sure that your mental health is okay. So I like people who are going to give it to me straight. They're going to give it to me straight, no chaser. Right. So I don't want you to just give me applause and accolades, but I want someone that's going to say, you know what? Have you thought about this? Or did you think that was really the best move at the time? Maybe you did, but now in hindsight, what have you thought about that move? I want someone to call me to task, call me on the carpet and say, hey, you might want to think some things through. Or here's another way to think about it if this situation arises. So it's not always going to be your family, your friends, and your coworkers. There are a lot of groups out there. Find out what those groups are. There are meetup groups, alignable.com, LinkedIn, Facebook. There's so many groups out there. I joined a group last year and I get to hear women talk about or being coached through problems or concerns that they're facing that I relate to. And I've never been personally coached by this, but just listening to the conversations and doing the work, it's phenomenal. And it has opened my world, my eyes to things that I've never thought or thought could only be in my dreams, but I'm making those dreams a reality. So it's going to be okay if it's not your family or friends to support you in that. Another thing that I want you to do is think about your flaws. And I don't mean in a negative way because, again, people can point out flaws all day long. But I want you to shift your mindset and think, hey, your flaw can be your biggest asset. So for me, I get worked up. I'm an introvert by nature. I don't like walking in rooms, showing up, shaking hands, right? It makes me tired and fatigued afterwards. You guys won't probably hear or see me for a couple of weeks if I go to an event when I have to be on all the time. But that's okay because in that flaw, and I consider it a flaw because I could be out there having great conversations with people. But at the same time, let me take a sip. At the same time, I am able to read a room. I'm able to read the energy when I walk into a room. And then once I read that energy, I say, you know what? This is the place for me. Let me enjoy this. How many wonderful people I can meet and interact with that I've never met before. So instead of thinking, okay, big events, networking events, they really tire me. They drain me. I don't think I'm going to go. And then I rethink and say, you know what? I may resonate and meet someone who may inspire me and I may inspire them. Take that flaw, make it your biggest asset. There are so many people out here who have had setbacks, who've had disabilities, but they've taken those things. They didn't look at it as a handicap. They looked at it as, what can I do and move in this function? I have spoken to people who are legally blind, and though they cannot see the world in the way that we see it, but they can see it from a different point of view, from a different perspective. And they get joy from life because they can see in a totally different light than what we can. We take for granted that we can just see. But for those who cannot see the way we do or can't hear the way we do, they are able to be in tune with the world in a totally different way. So just to recap on this, bottom line, I want you guys to be authentic through the process. Don't take for granted and try to be someone that you're not. Don't sit up here and try and fake it till you make it. If you don't know, ask. One of my favorite quotes is, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't ask, will you receive the help? And what I mean by that is, don't ask, okay, well, how did you make your first million? What did you do? Is there a process that you went through? What has been some of the lessons that you've learned along the way? Ken Coleman calls it the proximity principle. Get out there and find out people who are doing what you want to do, or maybe in a field that you want to work in. They might be the ones who begin to celebrate you, or be your biggest mentor or your accountability partner. And you know why? because they are resonating with you. By you remaining true to yourself, by you remaining authentic, always continue to move in circles where you are allowing your authenticity to shine. And last but not least, don't tolerate, celebrate. Don't just tolerate things in your life. Don't just sit up here and think, this is my lot in life. This is how it is. You ever hear those people that may say, well, that's just how I am. That's the way I'm always going to be. No, that's the way you choose to be. Nobody's making you stay where you are. Nobody's making you act the way you are. Nobody's allowing you to stay right there and be browbeated and not just merely existing or tolerating. If you yourself are tolerating those actions and those behaviors in your life, then I want you to take some time out to stop that stinking thinking and actually start celebrating yourself. Be that force of positivity in your life. Motivate and encourage other people, yourself included, and be around the people who are positive. I give you another prime example. On a job where I worked, there was a lot of negativity, a lot of toxicity, and it's probably going to be another episode. I'm going to talk about that as well. But I had to stop looking at the toxicity, because if that's what I focused on, that's all that I saw. So one year I said, you know what? I'm going to move and operate in a way that's authentic to me. If I support this particular group, then I'm going to support it not just necessarily in the conversations, but how I can uplift and support. And it took some time. I had to think about it. And I said, here's where I shine in my brilliance. Here's what I can bring to the table. And someone brought up in the group, hey, I really would like to do this. And so I said, hey, I'm happy to help with that, because I'm bringing awareness, but I'm bringing awareness in a positive way, not in a negative way. So when you start focusing and looking for the good, you're going to see the good. When you start focusing and looking for the positive, you're going to see the positive. People talk about negative things all day long. You know why? Because our brains are wired that way. So we really have to make the conscious effort to think positively and to look for the positive things and to think about a positive outlook in life. You can find joy in any little thing, in every situation. We just got to focus on it and look at it really hard. I had a colleague one point had a negative interaction with someone. And it wasn't their fault that this other person had equipment wasn't working the way it was. And they took that negative interaction and they were festering over it and allowing it to just pierce all into their soul and change their demeanor. And not long afterward, someone came along and gave them a compliment and thanked them for what they did. And they were like, okay, yeah, thank you. And was about to go back into their office. And I said, whoa, stop. I need you to sit back and I need you to celebrate the fact that that person just gave you a compliment and you dismissed that compliment, but you allowed that person that came before their negative interaction to permeate within you. But you just dismissed the positive interaction that you just had. That's our brains, guys. It's wired to try and take in all that negative stuff. So focus and start looking in for the positive. And you can start to celebrate the little things in life. You can start to build your own table, especially if they don't want you to have a space at their table. You go where you are celebrated, not where you're tolerated. If it is your family, if it is your friends, if it is a group out there that you come across and you meet, find it, look for it. Don't run away from it. All right, guys, take care and don't forget to work it, live it, own it in your everyday lives.